through the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, in collaboration with development partners such as the World Bank, is implementing several initiatives to promote the adoption of solar and other off-grid renewable energy solutions among residents in arid and semi-arid regions. One of the flagship programs under this effort, Honorable Speaker, is the Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project, famously referred to as KOSAP, which seeks to expand access to modern energy services in areas that are not viable for grid extension in the short term at a cost of US $150 million. The project targets 14 undeserved counties, as I've said. And these counties are Garissa, Isiolo, Kilifi, Kwale, Lamu, Mandera, Marsabit, Samburu, Tana River, Turkana, Wajir, West Pokot, Narok, and Taita Taveta. The objective of KOSAP is to provide renewable energy access to approximately 37,107 households and 343 public facilities, including schools, health centers, and administrative offices, through solar mini-grids, standalone solar systems, and clean cooking solutions. Although, Honorable Speaker, makwiny County is not among the 14 counties targeted under the initial KOSAP phase, the government continues to explore the expansion of similar off-grid renewable energy interventions to other counties with low access levels. In parallel, REREC is also implementing standalone solar systems and mini-grid projects across non-grid areas, complementing national electrification efforts. These initiatives collectively contribute to the realization of universal electricity access by the year 2030, as outlined in the Kenya National Electrification Strategy. Part D, Honorable Speaker, the aim of the ministry is to diversify the country's energy mix to ensure that we meet the rising demand for electricity. The current energy mix, Honorable Speaker, is as contained in the table that follows. I note, Honorable Speaker, that there are future possibilities based on the available information to tap into available renewable energy resources, in particular solar and wind, which I note is available in makwiny and various other areas in the country. And the ministry is in the process of exploiting the same. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the ministry is transitioning to renewable energy auctions that will encourage the private sector to invest more into solar and wind resources and sell their power at competitive prices. These initiatives will ensure that we harness more power from solar and wind and diversify our energy mix. Honorable Speaker, let me hasten to add that finally the National Assembly, which is part of this parliament, has lifted the moratorium that was imposed by the same House some time back. And therefore, as a ministry and our respective implementing agency, that is Kenya Power, we are now more than free to engage in negotiations with the prospective independent power producers. This will go a long way in addressing the shortfall and indeed to attract more investments locally and foreign. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Manzo, do you have any supplementary questions?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for the effort he has made, and he has clearly indicated that makwiny County doesn't have a budget on part of the solar powering. Recently, Mr. Speaker, the President, while in Qatar, talked about power rationing, and I believe this was with the advice of the Cabinet Secretary. Could he highlight, and when this power rationing happens, when will the people of makwiny be in a blackout so that we can plan ourselves much earlier, Mr. Speaker?
Honorable Sears, just wait for a couple of questions, then you can respond to them at once. The Senator for Nairobi City County, Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, as you know, I am a member of the Energy Committee of this House. This morning, we woke up to news that Kenya Power owes 30 billion Kenya shillings out of this same program of rural electrification because the government is pushing power to people who cannot actually sustain that power in terms of paying back the power bills. We see it as a photo obsession for the CS of Energy to go into some hut. You can see the economic situation of that house, Honorable Speaker, when the CS is going to switch on that light. Now, my question is this, and Speaker, in fact, the National Assembly, our sister committee in the National Assembly, is now recommending that in order for Kenya Power to pay back that 30 billion shillings, those of us, again, the working middle class in this country, who can afford to pay, the electricity cost be raised from July of 2026 in order to raise this 30 billion Kenya shillings to repay this debt. So the question to the Cabinet Secretary, and Honorable Speaker, we were in Kilifi County, where the Speaker comes from. The other complaint, and I'm sure you have interacted with this issue, Honorable Speaker, is that you find somebody has been connected to power, yes, but the power is so unreliable and so low voltage, it cannot power a portion mill for that hustler down there to be able to actually run the business. So the question to the Cabinet Secretary, as you push this power to these people, what plans have you as a government put in place to ensure that the people you are connecting that power to, after they get the infrastructure, are in an economic situation where they can actually pay their power bills? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Abbas Sheikh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First and foremost, I want to thank the Minister for coming and the good work they're doing. However, I know every part of this country, people are crying for power. Honorable Minister, I think I want to talk about my county. Wajir County has been experiencing power blackout and power inefficiency supply for many, many years. Subsequently, subsequent governments have always been saying that will be connected to the grid, national grid, that there is 5 megawatts of hybrid solar system. But of course, up to now, we experience same problems. That you have, your ministry has leased, our power has leased, Kenya Power has leased some generators from a private company called Income. But those guys are very inefficient. Income is not actually giving sufficient supply to Wajir. Wajir is experiencing actual blackout every day, one day out, day in. And therefore, I want to ask a question is that when are you going to connect, when will the Kenya Power, the ministry connect to Wajir, to the national grid, because Wajir is growing, and then there's so many off-grid lines that have been taken from the town, the main town, and then being taken to the rural areas. That's okay, that's in order. But of course, the power is not enough. So, because of that many connections, the main town...
Senator Abbas,
yes, sir.
Just pose your question.
Okay. The problem is we're now experiencing, terrible inefficient, the power blackouts. When are we going to have the promised 5 megawatts hybrid system, hybrid power from solars? And what are you going to do, the government doing, the ministry doing, to connect Wajir to the national grid? Thank you, Banawziri.
Now, honorable senators, let us avoid speeches. Let's go direct to the question. Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to ask a question. Honorable CS, welcome to the Senate, and thank you for your response on Makwiny. My question is whether the ministry has a program around the national government partnership with county governments to ensure operationalization of the industrial parks? How much has the ministry supported the provision of energy resources around the county industrial parks, and how equitable is that process?
Senator Mbugua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cabinet Secretary, in page 2 of your response, you talked about the last mile connectivity project phase 2. Could you tell this House how much that financing is, and also name the 32 counties which are supposed to benefit? Thank you.
Senator Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is in Nandi, we normally have regular blackouts that is affecting our business as farmers, especially preservation of milk, among other produce and products. What strategy does the ministry have to ensure, as they do last mile electricity to rural homes, have in place to prevent regular blackouts that is affecting the ease of doing business? And in addition, because it's one question, how much has been allocated to Nandi County to ensure in this financial year for rural electrification to many areas in Nandi County? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Consolata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. Bwana CS, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is based on what mechanisms of sustainability have you put in place to maintain and sustain these gadgets? Because you find that even down at the grassroots where I come from, Bungoma County, most mama mbogas are suffering because of regular power outages. Thank you.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to ask the Cabinet Secretary, what is he doing to ensure that the cost of the projects they are procuring, particularly in Kentraco, are the actual market costs and not inflated costs? And what are you going to do to resolve the matter that has been hanging around between the court and Kenya Power about the meters that is affecting the connections of rural projects? What are you going to do to address the conflict of interest in those who are involved in that matter? Thank you very much.
Now, Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond. You have 5 minutes to do so. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Yes, as I had said earlier on, Honorable Speaker, we continue to support initiatives to generate more power, especially from the renewable energy sources. That is, of course, including solar and wind power. And it must also be pointed out, Honorable Speaker, that investment in power generation is invariably by the private sector. Yeah, and therefore, the private sector, upon its evaluation and based on clear feasibility study, then makes a decision with the support of the government to implement these projects. And therefore, makwiny County is definitely a candidate for such projects in the fullness of time. Honorable Speaker, the 30 or so billion shillings owed to Kenya Power is not on account of non-payment of bills. This is basically money that is owed to Kenya Power by REREC for the purpose of for maintenance of lines. And it's something which we are dealing with internally as a sector, Honorable Speaker, and the ministry. And Honorable Speaker, it is not true that the households that we connect to electricity, that majority of them fail to pay bills. We don't have that evidence, Honorable Speaker. Many a time when we go out there to commission and or launch these projects, it is really as a way of rallying the public and sensitizing them on what the government is doing for them insofar as extending electricity is concerned. And if there's any default in electricity bill payment, can only be as a matter of, it can only be out of individual cases where somebody, of course, can fail to pay bills for one reason or the other, not because of the fact that we are extending these services to those who are unable to. Honorable Speaker, plans for consistent, reliable, and uninterrupted supply of electricity. It is important to point out that we are not just implementing these last mile connectivity projects or programs in isolation. We are looking at this in a holistic manner. As I mentioned, it starts with generation, which thankfully we are now able to progress as a result of the lifting of the moratorium. But after we generate, we are also concurrently dealing with the issue of infrastructure for both transmission and distribution. And we've invested heavily as government and also with support of partners. Yes, through REREC, through Kenya Power, and through KETRACO. And of course, finally, Honorable Speaker, is the last mile. And therefore, you must look at all this in totality. And all these contribute eventually to a supply which is reliable, consistent, uninterrupted, and more importantly, cost-effective. Honorable Speaker, Wajir County, we have been in touch with the leadership of Wajir County and working very closely with them. We know there have been challenges, especially Wajir Town, as a result of a breakdown in one or two generators that supply that town. I have personally, we've been in touch with the Governor Ahmed Abdullahi and my good friend, the Honorable Member for Wajir East, Honorable Daudi. And we have worked very closely, and I'm happy to report that the restoration of power to normalcy in Wajir town and environs is almost complete. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, we have got in plans a robust and what I would say transformative project that is going to ensure that we have got a hybrid system in Wajir town, okay? A hybrid system, Honorable Speaker, that will supply some 6 megawatts of electricity to Wajir town and environs, which is comprising of a solar PV and a battery storage system, to the tune of almost 2.8 billion shillings. Almost 2.8 billion shillings. This is a project that we are keen as a ministry to implement successfully, and we are hopeful that come sometime November, December next year, this project will be complete and commissioned. And this is going to address in totality and with finality the issue of power in Wajir town and environs, and indeed, many parts of Wajir County. I must thank the leadership of Wajir County for working very closely with us as a ministry. Honorable Speaker, as a ministry and through our relevant agencies, we continue to support county governments on a case-by-case basis. These county industrial parks, you know, there are different stages of implementation or development. And therefore, if and when they get completed, we come in very, very fast and support them through Kenya Power. We intend to continue in that trajectory. Honorable Speaker, the AFDB funding, phase 3, okay, that we are just about to implement in some 35 counties, is going to cost some 12 billion shillings. And this project is going to create a very, very big positive impact in terms of our electrification coverage. Honorable Speaker, blackouts in Nandi County must be looked at in the context of the national outlook. Honorable Speaker, I'm very happy to report, and this is something which is evident, that for some time now, we have almost reduced to 0 cases of national blackouts I'm sure honorable members and honorable speaker, and members, you will agree with me that it's long since we had an episode of national blackout. But for the localized blackouts, if and when they occur, we have put in place elaborate systems and mechanisms to ensure that the response time is as short as possible and that electricity is restored the soonest possible once these blackouts occur. But these localized blackouts, Honorable Speaker, can be attributed to very many factors, but chief of which is the vegetative growth, the trees that sprout and grow along the way leaves. We have worked closely with Kenya Power, and in the past few months, a lot of efforts have been put in terms of cutting down these trees, and this has reduced significantly the number of blackouts. And where the localized blackout is as a result of constraint in the supply, of course, I've said we are implementing a very comprehensive project to ensure that we have got adequate supply in the grid going forward. And this, of course, deals with the issue of Bungoma County and many other places. Honorable Speaker, the question by Honorable Senator Mandago, of course, it's not specific in terms of the cost of procurement by Traco, but I must report to the House, Honorable Speaker, that as a ministry and working closely with our entities, we want to ensure and strive to ensure that there is cost, there's value in every procurement project, Honorable Speaker. There is no problem so far on the matter of meters procurement by Kenya Power. Any small hitches that were there have been resolved, and Kenya Power is on course to have these meters in stores for use by Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. Nandi County, of course, has been allocated.
You've responded to Nandi County.
That's been allocated 1.349 billion shillings, which is under implementation. And this is going to connect some 19,000 households, additional, Honorable Speaker, in Nandi County. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable CS. We will now move to question number 123 by Senator for Tharaka Nithi County, the Honorable Mwenda Gataya. Now, this question will take us to 11:14. Honorable Senator, you may proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I would request to know from the Honorable Waziri what specific measures is the government taking to address the frequent power outages affecting Tharaka University in Tharaka Nithi County and its environs. But to Honorable Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary also outline the Ministry's long-term plan to improve power supply infrastructure and ensure progressive realization of universal electricity connectivity in the specified area, as well as across Tharaka Nithi County, and indicate the projected timeline for its implementation? Thank you.
Honorable CS, you may now respond.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I proceed to answer question 123. And I'm also, Speaker, from the outset happy to report that I have had a chance to visit Tharaka Nithi County. Specifically in July, I was in Tharaka constituency and did extensive tour to inspect the ongoing works in so far as electrification.
100 million Kenya shillings in the supplementary budget. 2, they are making further budgetary requests for the rest of the year and the coming years. 3, the operational adjustments for efficiency. The ministry is optimizing the distribution of available resources by prioritizing high-demand health facilities and strengthening coordination between blood banks, hospitals, and regional collection centers. 4, they're working on emergency procurement and partner engagement, and they have discussions that are underway with development partners and private sector stakeholders to secure emergency supplies of testing kits and consumables to sustain services while waiting additional funding. Through the interventions, the ministry remains committed to ensuring timely access to safe blood for all patients. Third response, the long-term measures being put in place to mitigate the risk and ensure a consistent supply of essential kits. The Ministry of Health again recognized the critical need and has put in place measures to mitigate the risk. And as you have said, again, this is increased budgetary allocation and lobbying for that. 2, dedicated blood services account. Madam Speaker, this is basically what to me is new in this whole response, so that we have a dedicated account that handles blood services, where finances that raised whether from government and partners can be put. And 3, get a framework contract for an uninterrupted supply. The minister developed a framework contract system with suppliers to guarantee a steady and predictable supply of blood screening, reagents, consumables, and kits. This will minimize procurement delays. But that framework really just works if you have the money. Strengthen partnership and resource mobilization. Again, as the minister has indicated, this is what they are working on. The 4th response, measures to adequately facilitate Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service to carry out its mandate. The response is the Ministry of Health, again, is committed to this process, and to achieve this, the ministry has undertaken the following key measures. Legislative reforms for autonomy. The ministry is in the final stages of establishing Kenya National Blood Transfusion Services as a semi-autonomous entity through legislative process. And I can actually vote to this, that there is a blood and tissue bill that is actually in process. 2, ring-fence the budget for blood services. 3, strengthen infrastructure and build the capacity for these services. And 4, public and private and development partner engagement. And that is the end. I just will comment that the basic issue in the blood transfusion services is the sudden cessation of support from the World Bank, and then we have not respondingly increased the required amounts. And so although this is the response from the ministry, as a committee, I think it behoves us that when we're now looking at the budget, we need to actually put more money. And this report actually has been here for quite some time, and it's a bit behind in time. And as a committee, we will have to actually look at what they have said here, particularly in terms of the law and 2, budget allocation. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a similar one, if I can go straight to it.
Just hold on. Before I indulge member for Honorable Kagusha, allow me to first recognize in the speakers gallery students learning security and criminology from Mount Kenya University, from Thika Town constituency, Kiambu County. We welcome you to observe the proceedings of the House. Honorable Nyikal, I would think that we indulge Honorable Kagusha before we go to the next statement. Honorable Kagusha, I know you're seized of the response. Do you have any follow-up questions? Don't debate, make a follow-up question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I note that the PES has admitted to the acute shortage of the blood testing kits and reagents in the country. Honorable Speaker, what the PES is telling us is that this has been occasioned by budget shortfalls. Honorable Speaker, at the point when I was raising this question, we had very serious challenges with the kits. But may I now inform Kenyans that we do not only have a problem with the kits, but this problem has also escalated even to the refreshments that are given to the blood donors when they go to do the donations. Honorable Speaker, today, the blood donors are required to buy their own refreshments. Honorable Speaker, the impact of this is that there has been increased deaths for patients who are seeking emergency services and blood transfusion. Honorable Speaker, you can also see a connection between the high maternity mortality rate in the country to this lack of blood transfusion. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I find the response by the PS lacking in many ways. He says that he has requested for 500 million and gotten 100 million. Okay. But, Honorable Speaker, the PS is now proposing to ration blood in the country in what he's calling the operational adjustment and efficiency. That is prioritizing high demand facilities, leaving out the low demand facilities. Honorable Speaker, this is very serious because if you are going to demand to now prioritize the high the high demand facilities, are you telling us that one patient who requires blood in those low blood demand facilities are not as important? Honorable Speaker, from this the response, I also find that like the PS is helplessly hoping to get some well-wishers to donate kits as he awaits budgetary allocation. Honorable Speaker, can you imagine the whole country of Kenya relying on the well-wishers? He says that he's going to do a framework contract. But how does this help if at all you don't have budget? Then he's also proposing to have public-private partnership on issues of blood. We cannot leave the issues of blood to the private individuals. Honorable Speaker, I want to just highlight something because I want to help the PS and I also want to help our chair, Health. I have looked at the shortfall of the budget that the Speaker, this ministry has alluded to. He says that we had 700 million that was allocated, but this was reduced to 300 million. Honorable Speaker, I have been able to allocate, to find where this 400 donated 85 million shillings. ADC Vihiga Church, the president donated 50 million shillings. AIPC Centenary, the president donated 50 million shillings. In Jesus Winners Ministry, the president donated 100 million shillings. AIC was in issue, the president donated 20 million shillings. Honorable Speaker, I have been able to get where the money for blood transfusion has been going to. Honorable Speaker, the president is taking the money for blood donation to the churches and taking them to empowerment programs when Kenyans are left to die.
Honorable Kagusha. Other members, you do not have to raise your hands. You are not in a classroom. Honorable members, use your interventions. Honorable member for Nandi, what is out of order?
Honorable Speaker, is it in order for the Honorable Member Kagusha to blatantly lie about donations that were made by I don't know who? I was in a meeting in Kapsabet, Honorable Speaker, and I never had such an amount. And Honorable Speaker, does it dictate what someone gives? Because that is a personal contribution, if at all it was given. And if he's
measures have been put in place to ensure that the problems uncovered by this House, including, Honorable Speaker, that opaqueness, the onerous terms, including payments to these IPPs denominated in dollar currency, lack of transparency, and even measures put in place to give priority, Honorable Speaker, to IPPs who've been waiting for these power purchase agreements, like the one solar plant in Nyeri that we saw. Somebody had been waiting 13 years for the power purchase agreement. What measures have been put in place to make sure there will be no corruption this time around, that there will be no onerous terms that have been put on those IPPs for Kenyans to enjoy low power costs? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator from Meru County, Senator Kathuri Murungi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want also to take this opportunity to welcome my brother, CS for Energy in this House. Honorable Speaker, I served with him for 10 years in the National Assembly. So when I see him here, I'm very proud that we are really also progressing to other tasks in this country. And I hope also in the near future will also be in another level, maybe since we are progressing positively, not negative. So, Mr. Speaker, Meru County, Mr. Speaker, the connectivity in Meru is very low, especially in some constituencies. And I saw also the PS in one of the constituencies. Igembe North has 19.2% of households that are connected. Similarly, Tigania East, 19.4%, Tigania West, 24%, Igembe Central, 22.3%. I'm aware that there is a money set aside for Meru connectivity, electricity connectivity at 2.4 billion. But going with these statistics, Honorable CS, I don't think we can do much in that county because the figures, as I've read, you can see we have a challenge. So what is the ministry doing to make sure that these constituencies with rural connectivity at least match up to 50% of the households to be connected by 2027? Maybe is there an elaborate plan that the ministry has at least to lift these constituencies with rural connectivity, at least to match those with the 50% and the 70%. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator for Nandi County, the Honorable Samson Charanke.
Mr. Speaker, on this part outage or power blackout, I've seen the CS has conveniently left out a very important issue. My concern is on the replacement, especially when there is a power blackout or outage in a region, especially in Nandi, we have a number of faulty transformers. So my question is, if there is no load shedding or power rationing, how long does it take to replace most of the faulty transformers? And I know it might not have been the CS then, but can you shed light? Because, Speaker, the reason we have power outage mostly is because when the transformers are faulty or they are damaged. So how long does it take to replace one transformer, Mr. Speaker? And is there ways to establish the needs or the support within that power line of transformer so that we can put this matter to rest? I thank you, Speaker.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to ask the CS, what is the national average connectivity for the country, and how does Tharaka Nithi compare to Murang'a, Nyeri, Meru, Kiambu, so that we can have a fair comparison of the west and the east of the mountain in terms of connectivity, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now proceed to respond. Before you respond, Honorable CS, Senator Boni, you had a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we don't understand why when this rationing is there, Western Kenya tends to be the biggest casualty. What is the reason? You are well placed to tell us, because fortunately for us, you also come from Western Kenya. And by that I mean Western Province, the former Nyanza Province, and parts of Rift Valley, Uasin Gishu, and Nandi. What is the reason?
Honorable CS, you have 5 minutes to respond to those supplementary questions. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me just answer these questions in the order they came, but some will be answered jointly. For instance, the matter of connectivity, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as a country, we are committed to attaining universal electricity access by the year 2030, Honorable Speaker. That is a commitment that the government has made and is working progressively towards attaining. Honorable Speaker, as we speak, the national connectivity, average national connectivity is about 76%. The national access rate. And of course, it goes without saying that different parts of the country are at different levels, Honorable Speaker. I may need to go back and come up with comprehensive data covering every part of the country, Honorable Speaker. Suffice it to say, Honorable Speaker, that in Tharaka Nithi County, for instance, Mara and Chuka-Igamba-Ng'ombe constituencies are fairly ahead of Tharaka constituency. Yes, but I can share the specific figures with the House, Honorable Speaker, if you allow me, at an opportune moment. What is critical is that we are working progressively towards attaining universal access by the year 2030, Honorable Speaker. As a matter of fact, Kenya is also a party to the Africa Mission 300, which is a serious endeavor being spearheaded by the World Bank and Africa Development Bank to bring on board some additional 300 million people to access electricity. Okay? Honorable Speaker, the second issue, of course, about Mutembei University, it is an isolated case, and of course, the relevant entity is seized of the matter. Yes, it is regrettable that it's taken long, but we are hopeful that by the time we are leaving this place, power will be back. Yes, I've been assured, Honorable Speaker. Again, Honorable Speaker, the issue of stable, reliable power supply, I have spoken to it at length. And I've said that we have a number of initiatives that we have embarked on, including the nuclear energy power that Senator Newton talked about. For the first time, this country is looking at a clear case of establishing a nuclear power plant. And we are more than determined that by the year 2027, 2028, we should be doing some groundbreaking, Honorable Speaker. And that nuclear power plant, Honorable Speaker, is going initially to produce some 5,000 megawatts, which is significant, Honorable Speaker, of course, in different phases. The first one, of course, being in Siaya County, as has been proclaimed by His Excellency the President. Honorable Speaker, the matter of PPAs has been spoken to, again, at length, by various houses, committees of this House and the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, we are learning from past experiences and therefore making improvements to the process of coming up with the PPAs. Honorable Speaker, if one takes time to read the report of the Committee on Energy of the National Assembly that has ultimately lifted the moratorium, Honorable Speaker, you will see a raft of recommendations in that committee report. Amongst of which are one, for the first time now, these PPAs will only come into force upon approval by the Attorney General. Something that was never the case before. That enhances transparency, Honorable Speaker, to a very, very large extent. Again, for the first time, Honorable Speaker, from the recommendation of that committee's report, these PPAs will be pegged on both Kenya shillings and dollars for the first time. Previously, of course, they were basically and exclusively dollar denominated. Honorable Speaker, it's also important to point out that in developing these PPAs, we are guided by the Least Coast Power Development Plan, which is our blueprint. It's our guidebook in terms of determining how much power we need to generate when and where, Honorable Speaker. Meru County, of course, just like the other counties surrounding it, we are making progress in terms of driving accessibility to electricity, Honorable Speaker. And we have allocated some 2.3 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, which we are currently implementing to connect some 27,500 or so households additionally to electricity. Again, the matter of faulty transformers in Nandi County is not isolated. We are working closely through our Kenya Power entity to ensure that these replacements, when they are due, they are done. But more important, Honorable Speaker, we continue to have very robust engagement with political leaders, especially members of parliament, from time to time. Since they are the people's representatives, we get to understand what is the feelings of the people on the ground. Through them, no week passes without us having an engagement with one group or the other of members of parliament and other leaders, including governors, and MCAs indeed, Honorable Speaker. The matter of Western Kenya, Honorable Speaker, again, we are alive to it, and we have put in place very, very deliberate measures to address the issue of power and liability in Western Kenya, just as we do for the rest of the country. A number of transmission lines are currently under implementation. And a number of improvements, including upgrading of substations. I can count very many of them, Honorable Speaker, if at that time. But I could share with you and the House more comprehensive information and data concerning these improvements, these projects that we are implementing to ensure that Western Kenya, just like any other part of the country, is serviced adequately and appropriately and consistently by Kenya Power and our other relevant agencies. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable CS. No, Honorable Senators, we will terminate our interaction with the CS at that. Honorable CS, you may leave at your own pleasure. We will now move to question number 043 by the Senator for Nairobi City County, which is directed to the CS in charge of lands. Clerk, can you usher in the CS in charge of lands, please? Now, Honorable Senators, as the CS is being ushered in the chamber, you will notice that she has 4 questions to respond to. It is now 11:20. Now I'm going to allocate 20 minutes per question, meaning we will interact with the CS for 1 hour and 20 minutes. That is inclusive of the CS responding and also honorable senators asking supplementary questions. Now, Honorable CS, welcome once again to the Senate. Now, you're before the Senate for purposes of responding to 4 questions. Now, we have limited time to do that. I will therefore be asking you to paraphrase your responses now that we have already circulated your written responses to all honorable senators. Now, the first question that you'll be called upon to respond to is question number 043 by the Senator for Nairobi City County, the Honorable Edwin Sifuna. Honorable Sifuna, you may now proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is good to see the CS for lands. As you're aware, we have very many pending questions for her ministry. So this is question number 43. Could the Cabinet Secretary disclose the current holders of the title deeds for the parcels of land registered as number 1 LR number 18282 in Kasarani constituency, which comprises 1,000 plots allocated to squatters in 1989 through a government squatter resettlement scheme, LR number 209/4844/124 brackets 619/33 in Makadara constituency, which was designated for use by the Mbotela Charcoal Dealers Self-Help Group, and lastly LR number 78/811 in Makadara constituency, which was designated for the Buruburu Phase 5 community playground. B, what is the ministry doing to safeguard the rights of the legitimate owners of these parcels of land and to address reported cases of fraudulent claims and encroachment in respect of the said parcels? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Honorable CS, you can answer that first question. Question number 043.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Directed by the former chair. Maybe you didn't need to read this document verbatim. It's a big volume. So maybe you can paraphrase and go to exact points where you think the member for Nairobi will be able to understand. And also you can help PMB to know whether maybe he is satisfied or not, then also it is important, since he has familiarized himself with the response. Proceed, Honorable CS.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think the volume is because of attachments that are quite a number. The first question by the Honorable Senator for Nairobi, Edwin Sifuna, my response, Honorable Chair, to save time, I will not repeat the question, is that I would like to state as follows: LR number 18282, measuring 7.1668 hectares, originally formed part of LR number 11344, measuring 2277 hectares. It was registered in the name of City Council of Nairobi. In 1992, the City Council of Nairobi leased that number, that land parcel 18282 to Messrs. Broadway Limited. That was in 1992. The land was leased for a term of 9 years, with effect from 1st of April 1992 at an annual rent of 88,000. And we put the lease document as an annexure to this response. Honorable Speaker, the lease document between the City Council of Nairobi and Broadway was registered at the Land Titles Registry at Nairobi on 30th August 1993. On the same day, 30th August on 30th August 1993, there is a challenge there. The property was charged in 1993, Honorable Chair, to Kenya Commercial Bank Limited for a sum of 10 million, and we put the charge document showing the status in terms of that borrowing by the Broadway Limited. On 26th of September 2024, the State Department for Lands and Physical Planning received a letter from the Director Assets Recovery Agency stating that the agency was conducting investigations into suspected case of money laundering in respect to, I believe, of the company that is the registered owner of this parcel, one on the properties in question, and the parcel number was therefore put under caution or restriction under Section 76. Honorable Chair, we have put in the letter in respect of that request by the Assets Director for Assets Recovery, and therefore the property is still registered, however, in the name of Broadway, because the question in terms of asset recovery was about investigations into money laundering aspects by the company. I want to state that that is the current status of that parcel, and we have not yet lifted the restriction, and because no request has come, I believe the investigations in terms of in respect of money laundering are still going on. That is the respect. I believe that was the last question in that respect. I don't know whether the Makadara one, I'll wait for. Yeah. Honorable Speaker, I think there is number 212, which is land number 209/4844/124, Makandara constituency, which was designated for use by Botera Charcoal dealers. And that is the the response. My response, Honorable Chair, to that question In this respect of this question, Honorable Chair, we have a survey plan. The acreage is 0.2926, that is page 2 of my response, the last paragraph. The land is measuring 0.2926 hectares, and it is depicted on survey plan number FR 310/52. A copy of the survey plan has been attached for that, as part of the exhibits in this particular matter. Honorable Chair, this parcel came about as a result of subdivision of RR number 209/4844, measuring 17 hectares or 17 hectares or 40.9 acres, which land was registered in the name of the City Council of Nairobi. In other words, this is a subdivision of that parcel. The land was registered at the Land Titles Registry as number IR 15371, and we've attached a copy of that. City Council of Nairobi cost 209/4844 to be subdivided into 75 portions, which portions were then leased out or given out to various entities and people. Honorable Chair, that parcel now was leased by the specific one, /124, by City Council of Nairobi to Messrs. Kimemia Engineering Construction Company Limited for a term of 99 years with effect from 1st of February 1953. The transfer was registered at the Land Titles Registry, Nairobi, as IR number 822769, as evidenced by entry number 94, and we've attached that register. A copy of the lease document is attached. The land has since been converted into parcel number Nairobi block, because this is one of those under the Land Titles Act for conversion under the Land Registration Act as Nairobi block 55/127 in compliance with the law. A copy of the land register and an internal search are marked number 7, annexure number 7. Finally, I want to say, in respect of that parcel, the land is now converted into the number that I have stated, Nairobi block 55/127, and it is private property leased or by way of a lease to Kimemia Engineering Construction Company Limited. I think that could be sufficient for that. And then there is the further question, number 3 of question 1, error number 79/811, again in Makandara constituency, which was designated for the Buruburu Phase 5 community playing ground, according to the question. The response, Honorable Speaker, is that I wish to say that Buruburu Phase 5 sits on Nairobi Block 79,